Hey guys, this is Bill here with Stinson Farms. Hey, doing a little maintenance before springtime hits, and got some leaks and different things I need to get patched up on the 4430. And today I'm going to be changing the valve cover gasket. So it's leaking right behind this injector right here in the very back, just right around this little bend. And the longer it runs, the more it leaks. But it's just a seep. But as you can see, you run it a little bit and it's getting oil all down the side of the engine. So I'm going to try to get that replaced, get that oil leak stopped, and hopefully we'll have some luck getting it repaired and getting the leak to stop. So there's a series of bolts. There's one right here, and the next one is here, and they're all the way down from the radiator end all the way back to the other end, and they're evenly spaced, and there's one on the opposite side of each bolt on this side. So we'll remove all those bolts, we'll get the valve cover gasket up and out of the way, and then we'll get her cleaned up, and we'll see about getting a new gasket put on it. So I just want to start by taking the bolts out, getting all of them removed. They weren't very tight either, and that may be part of why it was leaking, but I've got a new gasket. I'm going to go ahead and put one on. Alright, there's the first one. And I've got a little washer that comes on them. Each one of them have a little washer that sits in place that fits the groove and the pattern of the valve cover. And that'll help center the valve cover up when it goes back down, make sure it's in the position it needs to be. But we'll remove all those bolts and get everything out, and then we'll pull the cover off and see what it looks like. So I had to remove the vent tube out of the top of it. I forgot to mention that earlier. Got that out of the way. And then to get to these back bolts, which we'd have had to move that anyway to get to them. Like I said earlier, some of these aren't easy to get to, and there's not a lot of room in here, and I don't want to take the hood and everything completely off of it. And with the exhaust and turbo coming up over the top, I don't know if it would help that much and make much more room anyway than what we've got. But we're going to continue getting all the bolts out. All right, so I got all the bolts out of it. There was 8 total, and it's pretty loose. Normally you would think it would be stuck a little bit. As soon as I took the bolts out, this was loose. I don't know if the gasket's just really dried out and bad or what, but we're going to go ahead and get it off, and we'll see what it looks like then. Okay, I also had to remove the bolts from this bracket here. And this is the bracket that holds the starting fluid. I had to move it, take the bolts out of it so I could get it up out of the way. Didn't have room to raise the valve cover up. So I've got the valve cover off and got it wiped down and cleaned up. And it looks pretty good. It's okay. Well, what I did find is what I was kind of expecting. The valve cover gasket, if you can see it here, is broke. It's really dry rotted, and it's broke not only there but a couple other places. Just so happens that was the only spot that I knew of that was leaking, but it is in pretty bad shape. It's all dried out, broken at least 3 pieces. So we'll get the rest of it took off, get the top of the head cleaned, get the new gasket in place, and we'll get the valve cover put back on. All right, it actually came off in 6 pieces. This is the old gasket laying here on top of the valve cover gasket, and it is just brittle and dried out. I mean, you just barely bend it and it'll break. So I want to get all this wiped off, make sure all the trash is off of it and any old parts of the gasket is removed and everything's clean. And we will we'll put a small, possibly a small amount of silicone on the gasket, just enough to stick it and hold it in place where it goes. And then we'll get the valve cover reinstalled on top of that. So I've got the top of the head cleaned off, ready to put the new gasket on. This is the new gasket. I got it laid out on the valve cover in the direction it would go. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and put it down on top of the head and get it positioned, and then I'll put the valve cover back over on top of it and try to get it all lined up and get the bolt started back. Alright, so I got the new gasket on, got all the got the valve cover set back down, all the bolts started in it. I'll go over them one more time, make sure they're good and snug. Don't want to tighten them too tight, just tight enough to compress the gasket, and hopefully we won't have any leaks. I've got the bolts back in the bracket here that holds the starting fluid. Still got to tighten that up, but it's lined up and got the bolts in it. Also, the vent tube, if you can see it here, it goes in top of the valve cover. It'll go in back here. I don't know how well you can see, but it goes into the top of the valve cover there, and I'm gonna wait about putting that in there until I get all the bolts good and snug put. But that's where it goes. And then the other end of it, of course, your hose that runs out the bottom of your tractor will go into it. And that's everything. Hopefully we had success, won't have any more leaks. I'm sure that we found the problem with that old gasket being broke. And it wasn't much of a leak anyway, but it was enough to get the engine dirty. So that's what I'm working on today. About got that wrapped up. It's getting late in the day anyway. I hope it's enough light you can still see good. But I do thank you for watching, and remember to hit the like button and subscribe, and we really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.